go. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Corey and Reese.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Erica, and welcome everyone. My name's Corey, and as Erica mentioned, I work with CodeNation. We're a little web design and development agency and a long-term NationBuilder partner. I'm joined by the unbeatable brother and sister duo of Reese and Yolanda, and Yolanda will be along shortly. There are a lot of logos on this slide here. Obviously, you'll be familiar with the work of NationBuilder and the extensive suite of features their platform offers to organizations and to leaders. And as part of using NationBuilder, you also get access to a whole ecosystem of apps and integrations and partners to support your work. And that's where Yolanda, Reese, and I all fit in. We're among the team at CodeNation who work on SupporterBase, which is a platform designed to power distributed organizing at scale. It deeply integrates with NationBuilder, and it's aimed at extending the efforts of your core team by getting mobilization tools into the hands of your volunteer leaders. Excuse me. And we'll be working you through SupporterBase in detail today. For a quick bit of background, we're a team of 10 designers, developers, product managers, and programmers. Half of us are dedicated to creating campaign websites, offering design and development services, and providing NationBuilder support to clients. And the other half of our legendary little team is focused on building and running SupporterBase. We love helping organizations use NationBuilder to power their campaigns. It's an unbeatable platform, and we've now been working with it for over a decade, since many moons ago at the Aussie federal election in 2013. I realised that the other day. It's been more than 10 years. I'm going to a 40th birthday party tonight. We're all in our 20s when this journey began. Time flies. One other important thing about our team is that we only work with causes we support. Our goal is to help organizations and leaders campaigning for climate action, equality, social justice movements, and other causes close to our hearts. We believe we can provide the most value when we ourselves are also committed to your organization's goals. You know, when you're not just another paying customer, but when our team are fans and followers of your efforts, cheering on the work you do, and also hopefully helping you to get it done. I mention that as it means there are some organizations or political parties that wouldn't be a good fit for SupporterBase. We're not overly prescriptive or dogmatic, and we're not aligned with any particular political party. So if you're unsure, then definitely get in touch. And of course, we work with charities, unaligned groups, and apolitical organizations too. But I wanted to mention that as it's a core part of who we are as a team beyond our job titles, even when we down tools at the end of the week. And we love to work really closely with our clients, and we think we do our best work when we believe in the causes and the communities that you all champion. In terms of the structure for today's session, I'll provide a high-level overview of SupporterBase, what it aims to achieve, and how it integrates with NationBuilder. The amazing Yolanda will provide a walkthrough of the SupporterBase interface and some of the core features of the platform. She'll be joining us fresh from running a Pilates class. There she is. Hello, Yolanda. And the equally excellent Reese will talk through some examples of SupporterBase in action and discuss next steps. So let's jump in now for a brief origin story on SupporterBase itself. Over the past decade, we've been working constantly with brilliant campaign teams looking to grow their community and to scale their impact. And those organizations were increasingly turning to the model of distributed organizing. We found even the most well-staffed groups recognized it takes extra support to achieve long-lasting change. And I won't cover distributed organizing in detail. I don't think I've got much to tell you that you don't already know, but at its core, it's a model that empowers your supporters to play a critical role in your wins. And it centers on the idea that building momentum in chapters and in smaller groups can help deliver larger victories. It allows you to run more numerous and to run more diverse campaigns, and leads to more involved and more active supporters. It can help you grow and sustain your network and your supporter base in ways that are simply not possible when relying exclusively on the leadership of paid staff and core team members. I imagine none of that will be new to you as campaigners and organisers. You all know firsthand the power that comes from supporting your most committed volunteers and taking on leadership roles. The challenge is that it's not easy. Distributed organising comes with its challenges, and it requires a range of tasks like onboarding, engaging and coordinating volunteer leaders at scale. And while doing that, delegating tasks and tracking of activities, hopefully in a way that doesn't become a burden on your time. Equipping volunteers with the tools and the access that they need, but at the same time ensuring data privacy and admin oversight. And the management workload at times for implementing a distributed organizing system can start to pile up. And so in the work we were doing, we were hearing from organizations whose staff were losing time and, more importantly, losing energy when wrangling with messy spreadsheets. We were seeing core members of campaign teams manually copy-pasting content to send email blasts on behalf of local leaders. There was times when staff were having to fix data errors from leaders who had accidentally mishandled an import or unintentionally overwritten supporter details. And staff were having to go through and clean up unstructured tags in the database, and just generally dealing with the fallout and the risk factors that arise when opening up full CRM access to volunteers who potentially have limited training. I mean, that particularly happens when trying to support the extra influx of volunteers in the thick of an election campaign. You want to be able to onboard them quickly, so simplicity becomes a core feature. And the organizations we spoke to wanted a tool that would be intuitive enough for volunteers to simply hit the ground running. And we ourselves were looking for ways to help the progressive community thrive. So we set out to make it easier for organizations to leverage distributed organizing. That image of a disco donkey there is a hat tip to Erica's Colombian heritage and the timeless tradition of the burroteca. And obviously here it represents our aim to help organizations trade in a wagon load of manual work for a ready-made tool to keep their volunteers moving to the same beat. You know, it's a bad metaphor if you feel the need to explain it, but they let me keep it in the slide deck. So thanks for obliging my bad puns recently, Yolanda. Anyway, laboured analogies aside, we set out with the goal of helping organizations overcome these challenges of distributed organizing. And that's the driving reason that we created SupporterBase. Our clients helped us to spell out some clear goals from the start. For organization staff, we wanted to be able to build a tool that could streamline volunteer management so that campaigns can easily embrace distributed organizing at scale. And for the volunteers themselves, we aim to improve the experience for those emerging leaders and to kit them out with the tools that they need to drive local actions, hopefully surfacing the most immediate features they need to be successful and get started with limited training. And for the poor souls in charge of data management, we knew it was critical for the tool to sync with your organization's central CRM, to integrate deeply with NationBuilder, and to protect data by ensuring supporter contact details are always kept private, so they're never shown to volunteers by default. And these goals are still the cornerstone of SupporterBase. As a platform, it allows volunteers to manage their own groups or groups of supporters, and they can be the leaders of a single group or of multiple groups. It allows them to also lead actions and events, and those can be public or private. They can be virtual events or they can be in-person events. And the public actions that get created can be promoted via your organization's main NationBuilder website. SupporterBase also allows volunteers to email, call, and text the supporters, but only the supporters who are in their group or their groups. They can send bulk email and SMS to those to their group members and to their RSVPs, but they can't send system-wide communications to your whole database. Everything for a leader is scoped to the groups that they themselves manage. Volunteers are also able to update supporter profiles. They're able to log contacts and RSVPs, and they're also able to record attendance at events. Apologies. Volunteers are also able to view analytics and activity breakdowns to track progress and engagement over time. And there's further analytics features that are visible to admins and staff, core team members, to provide oversight on the activities that volunteers are taking across all of the groups in a SupporterBase. And possibly the most critical point is that your volunteer leaders can do all this without ever needing to see your supporters' contact details. SupporterBase was driven by a lot of early insights from digital and field organizers. It was really deeply shaped around the ideas from those campaigners on how best to support volunteer leaders. In 2018, we started working with local partners here on custom solutions to help power their distributed organizing efforts, particularly in the lead up to a state election in Victoria that year. And then we continued rolling out SupporterBase with partner organisations nationally to support their efforts in the Australian federal election in 2019. SupporterBase launched more broadly in 2020, and we've been working with a mix of clients across the globe for the past 3 years. But that whole time, the tool has deeply benefited from our clients' suggestions, their creative input, and their collective wisdom. We really try our hardest to build and plan SupporterBase in conjunction with the campaign teams who use it every day, and also the volunteer leaders whose organising efforts it's purpose-built to support. Among our clients listed there, SupporterBase spans a mix of use cases. We support organisations who run ongoing volunteer and group engagement over the long term. That's the groups like these in this current slide. And we also support campaign teams to expand their election efforts. And Reese will discuss examples of SupporterBase in use under those more condensed timelines of a major election campaign towards the end of the presentation. He'll cover how NationBuilder and SupporterBase were both used by the new wave of Teal Independents that took Australia's federal election by storm last year. Among them, the former captain of our national rugby union team. Go the Wallabies, World Cup 2023, here we come. I could probably get away with saying that because I don't imagine there's too many people from rugby playing nations on the call given the time zones. Part of the key strategic vision behind SupporterBase is to know its role in the ecosystem. We've set out to extend your organisation's existing systems and not to replace them. We partner with NationBuilder so that their platform can remain your CRM and your primary database. And while we focus on really enhancing the experience around volunteer management and around distributed leadership. The common pattern that emerges is that your staff and core team will continue to use NationBuilder, for example, to send email blasts and nationwide communications to entire supporter lists and to manage your main website. And at the same time, your volunteers are only need to be given access to SupporterBase where they can manage the groups that they lead. Your volunteers don't need to be trained in using NationBuilder, and they don't need to manage or even view supporter data directly. So they don't need to wrap their head around all features of the platform. And if preferred, you can even choose your volunteers' permission sets to require approval processes when creating events or when sending bulk communications in SupporterBase. That just means that your staff and your core team can always have an easy review process to exercise oversight of your leaders' actions in SupporterBase. On the nuts and the bolts of integration between the two systems, there are two core components. There's the website integration, which allows you to display your groups and your events publicly, if you wish. And you might have a mix of public and private groups and events. And there's the data integration piece that keeps everything in sync between the two platforms, supporters, events, RSVPs, and a number of other data pieces we'll dig into in a bit more detail in a moment. On the first point, the website integration, represented by that little graphic on the left, you will still have your main organization website on NationBuilder when using SupporterBase. And each supporter group can now have its own page on that central website, which ensures that the design for your supporter groups matches your organization's brand and your existing website theme. And we also provide a number of plugins to help support the integration of SupporterBase groups and events on your website. So there's an embeddable group map that you can display anywhere on your site to ensure supporters can easily find and join their local group and RSVP to its upcoming events. And the events themselves that are run by your volunteer leaders will also appear on your main website. And these will show as a stream on the group page, and they can optionally also be displayed alongside all the centrally run events that you have on your main calendar page. And we've created templates in the past to provide a calendar style display for events, which is particularly useful when there's a lot going on around election time. Reese will talk a little bit more about this and how it's been used in recent campaigns. Your group sign-up forms and event RSVP forms will all be integrated with your site. And so they'll capture new supporters and new RSVPs in NationBuilder and SupporterBase. This gives you extensive flexibility, and it means that you have the full power of NationBuilder's theme customization features to deliver the result that you need. So if you wish to update the way that events or groups display on the site, then you've got your NationBuilder theme and potential liquid support from developers to be able to get done exactly what is required to suit your particular use case. And you can even have your supporter-based groups and events live on their own action site in your nation if you wish, for example, to display them at their own subdomain. If you wanted to have a separate site for supporter groups and community-led actions and your main site at the primary domain, that way you could still use the same theme and design on that your main site uses on your action site for supporter groups and events. Or if you wanted, you could style the sub-site of supporter groups and events differently. It gives you ultimate flexibility around that piece. Turning to the data integration, SupporterBase provides a two-way sync. So changes in NationBuilder are reflected in SupporterBase and vice versa. Changes in SupporterBase are also synced to NationBuilder. We sync all the core data that your volunteers need. So that includes supporters, as well as their RSVPs, their contact history, and the districts that they belong to, the voting districts and precincts. There's a filtering tool in SupporterBase that can be used to surface that information as well and target supporters by their jurisdiction. We also sync groups as well as their events. And as mentioned on the website integration piece, groups are created as calendar pages in NationBuilder so they can have their own public page on your site and so that they can list the group's events. And we also sync all tag data between NationBuilder and SupporterBase, which is really critical because tags are used to determine group membership in SupporterBase. What that means is that you can set up systems where supporters are automatically added to groups in SupporterBase based on the tags that are applied by your action pages in NationBuilder. For example, you could ensure people who sign a particular petition against fracking, coal seam gas, could be added to your group advocating for a faster renewable energy transition. Or your donation page could tag recurring donors so that they automatically appear in a group where, for instance, volunteers could handwrite thank you cards and deliver those to new donors in your fundraising campaign. In the same way, you can also use auto-tagging filters in NationBuilder to apply tags to groups of profiles automatically and ensure that the correct supporters appear in the supporter-based groups where you wish them to show. There are endless possibilities to how you can use that tag assignment in NationBuilder to automatically sync new supporters to particular groups in SupporterBase. So that's the conceptual overview of SupporterBase and how it integrates with NationBuilder. It's designed to provide a highly tailored set of organizing features and get those in the hands of your volunteer leaders. And that way your most committed supporters can magnify the organizing efforts of your core team. Yolanda's going to give us a walkthrough of the interface and a demo of some of the core features now. So I'll throw to her and look forward to hearing from you at the end with questions. Thanks, Yolanda.
Thanks, Corey. I'll just try and share my screen. There we go. So can you see that?
Perfect.
Alrighty, so this is what the main homepage of the SupporterBase portal looks like. But when we set it up for you, we'll update the colors and the logo here to suit your organization's branding. You've got the left-hand side navigation panel where you can access all the tools you need to communicate with your supporters over here. And over here to the right, you have a summary view of the groups that you manage. So as I scroll down here, you'll see that the groups can be set up based on anything you like. So you could have geographical groups or a group to communicate with other campaign staff in your team, or even a group for committees like I've created here for the Charity Bake-Off Committee. And I just want to point out as well that I can see all of these groups that I've created within this SupporterBase under the umbrella of the one organization because I'm currently logged in as an admin. But if you've only been assigned as a group leader, for, say, the Brisbane local group, then that would be the only one that I have permission to see here. So I'll show you what the group pages look like. I'm going to head to my Sydney local group down here. So when you click into the group, you can see a dashboard with all of the key stats. It has a summary of the number of supporters, any upcoming events, any comms that have gone out. And then you can scroll through the list of supporters here, which is easy enough because I've only got 9 in this group at the moment. But if you say get into the hundreds with your group, then it might be easier to do a name search up here, or you can use the advanced search tool up here. So you can search by lots of different things. You could search by postcode, last contacted at, or you can even search by tags. So for each profile, you'll be able to see a summary of all of their key information. So you can see how long they've been a supporter since. You can see that their contact details here are blocked out for security reasons, but that's configurable. So you can change that for each organization if you want them to be able to see it. And then you'll see notes here around their most recent contacts. So before I dive into how you can actually go about contacting supporters one-to-one, I'll just flag that there are actually different permission levels, as Corey said, that you can set on the platform yourself. So that determines who can send bulk communications out to supporters with or without admin approval. So all users as a base level will be able to carry out one-to-one emails and one-to-one SMS and one-to-one calls without approval for admins. But then depending on how you configure your own organization's setting on the platform, for some people, when they create a blast or a new event, that draft might be sent to the admin for final review before it's then published. So for one-to-one comms, you can do this via the person's profile here. If I'd like to email, I would just click on this send email button. I'd type in my name, subject, and you can see there's a little formatting tool to send an email there, and I'd shoot that off. The same goes for the SMS button here. I can send one-to-one text, write that here, and that goes straight to their mobile. And obviously those messages don't just go out somewhere into the ether. The power of distributed organizing obviously comes from staying engaged and connected with your supporters. So you've really got to remember to always be checking your inboxes. So once I've sent those SMSs off or the one-to-one email, the way that I would check the inbox is I can see over here, you see there's the little highlighted number. It shows me that there's some unread mail in both inboxes. So to check it, I'd click on this. I'd go to my email blast, go to mailbox. I'll find the group that has the unread number. And I can see that Corey has written back to my bake-off message. He's told me that he's up for meetings going forward as long as they don't clash with his karaoke night, and that he'd prefer not to receive any calls going forward. He'd prefer SMS or emails. So to update his contact preferences, I could go up here to this box, say that he doesn't want to receive phone calls anymore, and then I can just respond to his message within that thread. And then all the admin and any other group leader who's assigned to manage that group will be able to see this thread going forward, just so there's complete oversight of all activities and there's no double ups. So that's how you check the email inbox, and it's the exact same steps for the SMS. So I won't show you that again. But to go back to the supporter profile, so I'll go back to my group, Sydney local group here. I've just done a one-to-one SMS and a one-to-one email, but if I want to make a call, the way that that works is you can see that there's this little call button, and we've set up the platform so that you can make a call on your own mobile without actually having to use any of your own credit or data. So when you first set up your SupporterBase profile, you're asked to add your mobile number, and it's so you can make calls via the system. So when I click on this call button, just make sure my phone's on loud, my phone will actually automatically ring. See, my phone starts ringing. And if I were to answer that call, it would put me through to Reese, and it would say you're being patched through to Reese. I'd have the phone call with Reese on my own phone. I'd enter any details here. So I'd write notes about the contact. Maybe he said, I don't want to be called again, but please SMS me. I could write that there. I could RSVP him to an event there, so you're not having to jump in and out of the platform. And then you'd hit log contact. And then when you log it, that will automatically update this most recent contact section here. So that's the general kind of little bit of background of groups and one-to-one comms. I'm going to run you through 2 different organizing scenarios on the platform today, so you can get an idea of how it would work in real life. So the first scenario will be creating, promoting, and managing a launch event for my Sydney group here that I've just recently created. And the second scenario will be preparing targeted communication blasts that will help me reach out to those people in my group who specifically volunteer to help out with flyering and posters when they filled out their little volunteer form on the online website form that Corey showed you before. So for my first task, I want to start with a launch event for this Sydney group that I've just set up. So to do that, I'm going to navigate over to this left-hand side menu again and click on Events, Create New Event. And then from here, I'll choose my Sydney local group. And then you'll see here, as well as choosing the group, there's also an option to choose different event types. And as a SupporterBase admin, you could create as many or as few different event types as you like. And you can see that if I choose the in-person event type, then I'd have the option to apply the in-person tag down here. And by choosing that event type, that sets what the event will be tagged with. So Corey showed you earlier how you can have events appear on event calendar pages on your website. If I've set this Sydney group launch event up in SupporterBase with the in-person tag, using a filtering tool when I'm on the website, on the events calendar page, I can filter and filter by in-person events only, and then this event would appear. So that's why it's why we set the tags up like that. So I continue filling out the event form. You can see here as well, because I've selected in person, it'll have necessary event address details that I have to fill out. If I went for the virtual event, it would get rid of all of those fields. So I'm going to go the in-person event for my launch event. I could type in where I'm going to hold it at Sydney Park, and you'll see it auto-populates the map there. You can type in all of the event details here. I won't bore you with going through that. You'd type in your event description here. And then down here is the autoresponder email text. So by filling out this section here, that's what people are going to see as an event description on the website. And then this section here is what they're going to receive as soon as they RSVP via the website. So, you know, when you fill in your form, you hit your name, you press RSVP, this will say, you know, you've got to fill in your subject. Thanks for joining. Can't wait to see you. And then you can either leave this text how it is, and it will pre-populate based on the start and end dates and event names and everything that you've put up here. Or if you want, you can just delete it completely and do whatever you want to put in the autoresponder text. So from here, once I hit create event, the event will be published straight to your local groups event page on your public website if you've got the relevant permission level set. So I'll show you, I've created this earlier. So I'll show you once you've published it, you've hit create event. So navigate back to all the events that you've created. You'd go to group events here. And you can see a list. I've got this one here that I've just created. If I go into this portal for the Sydney local group launch event and I click on this URL, I can instantly see what the page is looking like on the website. So you've now created yourself, rather than having to go to an in-between person, maybe a marketing manager within the organization, you've been able to, from start to end, plan the event, set up the event invite, and then publish it to the site, which is pretty cool. So now that you've set up the event, you could get people that come in via the website and they find it in your local group events. But obviously you'd want to try and promote it a little bit more than that. So I'm going to show you how you would start promoting that across your network. So if you wanted to share it on your social platforms, you could copy this link and paste it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, send it in text to friends. If it's a public event you think people should know about, send it in WhatsApp groups. Everyone who clicks on it is going to be taken back to this original form. But if I want to share it with everyone in my actual Sydney local group, what I would do is I'd copy this URL, and then I'm going to create an email blast. So over here, I'd go to email blast, create new email blast. And I'm going to choose to send it to everyone in my group. And and you would just type your text in here, which I've already got created. And you can see I've got the URL there. When I hit send, that's going to send out to my entire group. And when they RSVP by that form, obviously I need to try and track that. So I want to make sure like I know who's actually coming. So to check my RSVPs for the event, after I've sent off this email blast, I'm going to go back to that event page. So we go to events, group events. I can see I've already got 8 RSVPs. So I would click on the event. I can scroll down and see everyone who's coming in a list view. And I can also print an RSVP list. So you can take that to the event if you want and tick it off. If you want to go to the more old school route, or if you've got a laptop or iPad, you can also just take this to the event and then review all the attendees in real time. So I've got the word out there, I've put it on the website, I've sent out my blast, but then I really want some follow-up before the event because we're all pretty busy and, you know, things can pop up, you can forget. So I would like to send out an SMS blast to everyone, but I don't want to send it out now, obviously, because that would be really annoying to back up comms, but I'd like to ideally send it 2 days before the event as a reminder. So how I would do that would be I'd go over to SMS blast, create new SMS blast. And I'm going to do this blast based on the event RSVPs or attendees. So I could click on this button here, choose my supporter group, Sydney local group. I'm going for that launch event, and I'm going to choose to send it to all RSVPs. So this way I'm not annoying the people who didn't actually RSVP in my group. This is really personalized. I can say, hey, can't wait to see you in 2 days. And then create the SMS blast. But don't worry, it doesn't go off straight away. You have a chance to check the recipient list. You can send a test SMS to yourself to see what it actually looks like. And then when you approve it, you then get another chance to choose whether I'm sending it now or scheduling the blast. So I'm going to schedule the blast and I'm sending it 2 days before the event. So that's actually tomorrow. I can set the time when I'm going to send it and then approve and schedule. So then that's done. I don't have to think about it again in the lead up. The SMS is just going to be sent out by itself as a reminder. So that's great. We're leading up to the event. We're at the morning of the event and it's been sunny all week. I've set up a park event. Of course, it starts pouring rain the morning of. So to get in touch with everyone who said they're actually coming and to make it more personal, I'm going to make some calls to everyone who's coming and let them know that we're going to meet at the undercover area in the park instead. So to do that, I'm going to go back into my group, go to the supporter group, go to Sydney local group, and I'll go to call lists here. I'm going to add a call list and I'll say Sydney launch event, wet weather plan. I'll create the call list. And then to add everyone on there, I'm going to press add supporters to the list, add supporters by RSVPs to group events, choose my Sydney local group, add them to the call list. And then it'll just take a second to sync and pull through from NationBuilder. And then you've got all the people who have RSVP'd here. I'll press start calling this list. My phone will start ringing and I'll be patched through to Yolanda, to myself. And then I'll have the chance to log any contacts. It'll give me time to finish doing the logging any contacts. And then when I'm ready, I'll hit a button. It'll take me through to the next caller. So that's how your call lists work. You get a chance to slowly roll through and talk to each person. So that's from start to end, how you would set up and manage an event. And before I throw to Reese, I'll just show you how you can target blasts as well. So say, someone's come in via the online website form. They said they want to volunteer and they've ticked the box to say they're going to help out with flyers and posters. And you want to target those people specifically, once again, rather than having to annoy your entire supporter group, get in touch with people who you know are going to actually show up. So to do that, I could send an email blast. So I'm going to go create new email blast. And if I just selected Sydney local group and went to go send it and typed everything in here, it would just send to my whole group. But if I want to send it to everyone in my group who also has been tagged with flyers and posters, I'm going to choose this advanced filter, create new advanced filter, type in flyers, posters. And then you can set your own criteria here for the filter. So I'm going to say anyone who matches, can't spell, this tag, create filter. So now I'm only targeting that very like niche particular cohort of people in my group who I know are going to flyer and poster. And then I send that off. And then, you know, you can change that up as much as you want. You can add lots of different layers of criteria. You could add someone who's going to flyer and poster. Then you could say someone who has the flyer and poster tag, but also has this certain postcode. So you can add in as many or as little criteria as you want to build it out. So that's kind of an overview of some kind of everyday activities that your volunteers or yourself might be carrying out on the portal. I'll just show you how you can check the output of all your activities. So we have an analytics tool that you can view for each group. So say I'm a group leader, I want to see what I've actually, you know, managed to put out in the last week or so. I'd click on this group analytics tab at the top. And you see a breakdown of the amount of supporters, new supporters, the amount of emails, events. And it's a good little morale booster for group leaders. You can share it with your wider group and say, look how awesome this is. We've done X amount of actions this week. It's great admin oversight. It's good for campaign reporting. And because, yeah, as well as this group view, if you're an admin, you also have a view across your entire supporter base. So if you're reporting, that can come in really handy. Last thing I'll show you is just this help section. So over on the left, if you're ever lost, we have a help portal. You can click on these quick links to our guides. They're comprehensive written guides that are housed on the SupporterBase website. If you're more of a visual learner, we've got the video tutorials, which you can click into that button and go to those. You'll have to deal with me speaking a lot more though, because they're 2 to 3 minute videos broken down, summarizing all the different main functionalities. So there's videos on creating blasts, creating groups, adding new supporters. And we've also got a little request support button here. So if you ever want to get in touch with someone in our team, you can click on that and it sends an email to us. We monitor our inbox all the time, every day. So it's not like you'll be waiting ages for a response. And lastly, there's a little FAQ section here, which we've actually built out for you, the organization, to tailor yourself. So this is just example ones that I added here, but you can create as many or as little as you want. Some people use this section to add scripts to use for call lists for their orgs to use. Maybe they have some tips around best times of day to send emails and SMS blasts. You can use it to save email templates to maybe welcome new supporters or for weekly meeting invites. Some people also use it to save a library of tags available in SupporterBase. So when you're actually targeting comms, you know what options you have to target with. And you can also use it just to keep phone numbers of different campaign team contact. So that is the SupporterBase in a nutshell. I'm going to throw to Reese so he can do a bit more of a dive into how this was used pretty powerfully by some of the successful winning campaigns in the Australian federal election.
Sorry to interrupt you guys, Reese. Before we do that, I feel like it might be a good time just for some questions, since we're switching from like the what is it to how, you know, examples. So because I think we're a good sized group, it doesn't just have to be questions, maybe like thoughts, questions, comments. I'll kick it off because I'm also learning about SupporterBase. I think this is super powerful and didn't even realize how much an organizer probably does all of this kind of stuff in their head, and they're like fumbling with their phone to like call people just before an event has changed, and like, oh no, I didn't save that number, and then having to go and find it. And just how much smoother this could be. It's kind of like professionalizing that small group organizing in a really clean way. So thank you. If anyone has any questions or comments, throw them out there now. You're welcome to unmute and just ask verbally too.
And also, if no one has any questions now, we're always up for having separate chats. So if you want to email, we can always jump on a Zoom call to run through anything. We regularly do these demos in the tool, and you can focus on particular parts that you think you'd use most. So that's always an option too.
Alrighty, well, it doesn't look like there's any questions, so let's wow folks with how this tool was used in the election recently. Reese, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Erica and Yolanda, and hi everyone. I imagine you can all see my screen now with those 5 logos popping up. Excellent. So yeah, as Corey said, we really love to work with all our great clients day to day, all our long-term partners. But it was also really exciting to be able to support a number of successful candidates at the last federal election in Australia over a kind of more condensed time period. So today I'm going to focus on the 5 independent campaigns that you can see listed here on the slide, all of whom were using a combination of NationBuilder and SupporterBase on their way to some pretty historic wins in either kind of marginal or previously safe electorates around Australia. I should mention a couple of quick caveats before I get started. So, of course, we don't want to take any undue credit for the success of these campaigns. They're obviously the culmination of a huge effort from the candidates, the campaign teams, volunteers, a number of other third parties who supported them. So we can't speak on behalf of the teams and don't plan to provide kind of commentary on the entire campaign or the broader reasons for success. But what I do hope to do is just provide some observations on some of the general challenges that were faced by these campaigns from the perspective of our own particular niche in digital organising, and also discuss a few key ways that NationBuilder and SupporterBase were used to good effect in supporting the campaigns. I should also say that the challenges and lessons here are not unique to these particular campaigns. Indeed, I'm sure a lot of you would be familiar with a lot of the challenges that are raised, as well as a number of other political campaigns, advocacy organisations, and anyone doing this kind of social change work would confront similar challenges from time to time. So I'll set the scene, I guess, with a few of these challenges to start with. So firstly, they had very short lead times. So generally only a few months between when the candidate was kind of officially selected and launched through to election day. But on top of that, they didn't actually have the kinds of established processes and technical infrastructure that political parties or established advocacy organisations might already have, so they're having to start from scratch. And they also had huge numbers of volunteers, hundreds at the lower end and thousands of volunteers in some cases, which was amazing and ultimately a huge factor in their success, that people power. But it also creates its own challenges, including a number of the challenges that have kind of already been raised by Corey and Yolanda above. So trying to keep data up to date and consistent across your entire campaign when you've got volunteer coordinators working across thousands of different supporters, as new volunteers are onboarded and take up different roles and start running communications of their own. That's a real challenge to make sure your data is consistent and usable as the campaign kind of grinds on. Access to easy to use communication tools that people can be onboarded on very quickly and start using straight away, but also powerful enough to have that targeted engagement. Time is always a constraint for all of us, but for these campaign teams working with only a few full-time staff in many cases, trying to recruit, onboard, communicate with so many volunteers, thousands of volunteers can quickly become unsustainable for these small teams. The flip side of that, as you try and overcome the time barrier and distribute some of the leadership and some of the roles of organising, the flip side is then trying to maintain some level of control and oversight. Each campaign has its own code of conduct. They want to run a moral, a good campaign. They want to make sure that the events, the messages being sent out are consistent with their code of conduct, but also consistent with their strategy and their tactics as well, so that the campaign doesn't kind of go off the rails. And then finally, the data security and privacy of all their supporters is really important as well. You've got people signing up to be part of a political campaign. They're offering a lot of their personal data and their preferences, their addresses. So it's important that you've got a system which can store that securely, and it's not just being kind of shared around through various people's phone numbers and spreadsheets and back and forth in emails. High level of security is a real benefit as well. So I'll just touch on some of the ways. Obviously, NationBuilder helps solve a number of these challenges and was the backbone of the tech stack for these campaigns. So as a starting point, With NationBuilder's website platform, we were easily able to create some high quality NationBuilder websites, in a matter of days, using our templates and updating the branding to match the campaign. But that just meant that, they would have all the right forms in place. You can see here a volunteer form, collecting the roles that people might want to sign up for, making sure they're getting tags applied for the roles. But then, of course, there's, your donation forms and other sign-up forms, all via the same platform, means the data is coming in a consistent way, rather than, what was potentially happening before, where people, before they switched to NationBuilder, were collecting sign-ups via one form, running events via a different one, collecting a lot via paper and spreadsheets. Just meant the data was in all types of formats, with long delays between imports and exports, meaning that it was not available in a timely way for people to actually make good use of it and reach out to their volunteers when they needed to. And then, the integration of all those features, I say, is so important for NationBuilder as well. Not having to either deal with imports or exports, or conversely trying to set up lots of integrations, which are possible, but when you're dealing with tight timeframes and limited bandwidth to deal with integrations, trying to do so can just become a bit of a mess, and you just distract yourself from actually doing the organizing work. And then finally, the filtering tools in NationBuilder are really powerful in their own right. So identifying the right segments of people who have signed up to different things, live in different areas, might have different levels of support, but then when used in conjunction with SupporterBase, could be used to set up some kind of automated workflows where, as soon as people hit certain criteria, they're moved into the right groups automatically. And this touches on Corey's explanation of how the tagging system works. But, as a real life example, you might have had people sign up to, say, letterbox drop-in or flyering, and based on that interest, say flyering, and a combination of that and their postcode, they could be sent to a particular team which was doing flyering in this suburb throughout the election, and whoever was the coordinator in charge of those activities would immediately have interested parties in their group via the sync that they could reach out to. So I'll walk through, I guess, a few quick examples of how some of the functionality I just spoke about was used in the campaign and some of the core elements. So for some, the ability to scale the event management process was seen as a real game changer or a lifesaver, in the words of some of the feedback we got after the campaign. And this is because it allowed campaign teams to delegate responsibility for creating those events, have them published on the website, potentially after that quick approval process, and then start recruiting supporters. That obviously saves a lot of time for campaign teams, not having to go and manually create each event on the website, or coordinate with the volunteers who are running the event about when it's going to be and how you're going to describe it and who you're going to be targeting. They could just kind of delegate those jobs. And, with a few events, maybe that's not a big deal, but these campaigns are running hundreds of events across kind of large geographic areas in some cases, and it would just not be sustainable to try and do it all centrally. And of course, these events, in our sense, we see it as a technical thing. There's an events on a website, but in a real sense, greater numbers of events, greater numbers of RSVPs means much greater visibility for the campaign out on streets. And it also means a lot more conversations with undecided voters, which is really critical to some of these very close campaigns. So you can see here, how this could look with that sync that Corey mentioned with the website. You would, throughout the campaign, their volunteers would create an event, it would be approved, automatically published to a calendar. Some prefer a simple list, some prefer the calendar layout, or another layout. But that just meant that volunteers could navigate to their section of the website. It might be called volunteer activities or volunteer events. They could filter. You can see up here there's some tag filters, but this might be flyering, door knock, And then, of course, there's the RSVP management side of things as well that you'll land around through. Once the events are up, trying to then follow up with people and drive attendance is really important. And that's where some of the tagging comes. If they're a coordinator that we're trying to run half a dozen events over the course of a week, and they saw that one of their events on a Saturday didn't have enough people to do flyering, they could go back into their group and send out a kind of urgent SMS with a few days' notice to say, "Hey team, you've previously signed up to indicate you're interested in flyering. It would be really great if you're able to help out this Saturday. We're short on people. It's an important moment of the campaign. Can you make it along?" So that the follow up and kind of being able to review and communicate with RSVPs as well as people that hadn't RSVP'd was really important. So for some campaigns, as I mentioned, the events were really key, that event creation process and scaling that. For others, it was some of the SMS and email blast functionality. So having these comms tools in place that allow people to quickly get a message out rather than having to kind of call everyone individually or SMS everyone individually, which can take forever and end up with punching numbers in to every single SMS or going through your contact list, which may or may not be up to date. Here at key times, when you needed a lot of people at a rally or an event, the leaders could go in and create, say, an SMS blast, target that at the right people in the right place, and get that out at short notice for maximum effect, while making sure a record of that contact was still being logged to the profiles of these people in SupporterBase and NationBuilder, so you have a sense of when people are being contacted and about what. This is just like a quick real life example of that in action. So this particular campaign, it was quite a high profile campaign, competing against the then Federal Treasurer of Australia, but the campaign under a bit of pressure, a bit of attack from the opposition, decided it was important to have some quick snap rallies in solidarity with the community independent movement, and with about half an hour notice sent out some SMS blasts to certain segments of people. It was a rainy kind of Melbourne weekday, and with about half an hour's notice, they were able to get turnout in the hundreds on street corners, all wearing their kind of branded merchandise. And the feedback we got was that it was just very effective at those key campaign times to get the high level of cut through that you might not have with kind of email or other kind of individual comms. So here, I won't run through all the numbers on the slide, but it was really exciting to see that the tool got quite extensive use across those 5 campaigns over that short period of time. Some started earlier, say in February before the May election, others only in the final few weeks before the election, as they really needed to supercharge their volunteer movement and get the highest levels of turnout, just before polling day. And although it was also really exciting as well, not just the numbers, but the fact that a lot of the campaign teams, the organisers, previously had very little or often no experience with NationBuilder and no experience with SupporterBase. So the fact they're able to use these tools so quickly in a high pressure environment and make good use of them, I think spoke to the usability and the usefulness of them as well, because we all know it's pretty easy to abandon tools as soon as there's any points of friction. So that was really encouraging. But most encouraging was the fact that they won. So these 5 campaigns all won their seats in what was seen as a pretty major event in Australian politics. These independent candidates, despite the challenges getting across the line, was huge. I think the word teal, which was often kind of described rightly or wrongly, these candidates, it became word of the year last year in Australia in some of the local dictionaries. So it was a big moment. And yeah, we're excited to kind of keep supporting other campaigners as well, other progressive campaigners throughout state elections that have happened in Victoria, but are happening in New South Wales at the moment.
Reese, we're just coming up to time.
Yep.
So I wanted to, yeah, okay, go for it.
Excellent. So yeah, I was just going to say that's it. Feel free to contact us via the website or the email. there, or send us any questions. As Yolanda said, we're always happy to chat. But thanks a lot for that.
Thank you, Reese, Corey, and Yolanda. I know we're at time. If people have to hop, thank you so much for joining us. I'll be sending the recording out later today. And if you can stay for a few more minutes, if you have any questions or comments, just feel free to unmute and have a chat with us, or pop it in the chat. I thought maybe Corey, the question that Michelle asked before she left about like how quick is the sync, I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Can you answer that out loud?
Yeah, definitely. And I've written some notes in the chat if anyone prefers to sort of read it or copy that for reference. And we have some documentation on this on our site as well. The answer is that there's a mix of syncing between NationBuilder and SupporterBase being instant and periodic. So NationBuilder sends webhooks with information about data updates for a number of changes, and those include things like when a new contact happens, we find out about that instantly and we store it in SupporterBase. And similarly, when a supporter's profile is updated, that's kind of all of the core information about the supporter, their contact details. The one point there is it doesn't include tags, so the tags are synced. So any tags that are added to a profile in NationBuilder, if they happen kind of via an auto tagging filter or some sort of automatic batch action like that, then they'll be picked up twice daily on a sync process that we run. And for every group, you can click a button to automatically and instantly sync all of the supporters who have the group's tag. So that's kind of a way to not have to wait for the twice daily sync. You can do that instantly. And then, yeah, other things like calendars and events and RSVPs, we run that sync process every hour. So, yeah, and I suppose the other point is that when changes are made in SupporterBase, they're synced instantly to NationBuilder. So it's only in the other direction that they're in a couple of the cases there's some delays.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Just going to give some space for people to ask questions. Unmute if they would like. All right. Does not look like we have any other questions or comments. I think this is incredibly powerful. Oh, I heard someone there.
So I have a
Carrie?
question. I'm like Corey. So I'm Carrie, and I'm with Nicolette Buller's campaign in Bradfield, which is the incumbent is the former communications minister, Paul Fletcher, and he previously enjoyed a majority of 67, and now he's down to 54. So we nearly got there, but we gave him a big shake up. We use NationBuilder. We never use SupporterBase. And we struggled with a lot of the things that you've been talking about. So I'm definitely up for having a one-on-one conversation later with the SupporterBase team. But my questions are around donor information. So obviously we use NationBuilder to track our donors. How much of that appears to the group leaders in SupporterBase? Do they see that the person is a donor? Do they see how much they have donated, or is it private in the same way that the person's contact details are invisible?
Yeah, so the records of sort of donation dates and amounts are private. The top line information about whether someone's a donor can be visible to supporters. So the one way to capture that is in tags, so that you can set up auto tagging filters for people who are donors. That information can be synced to SupporterBase. And you can, with the tag display as well, there's a feature in SupporterBase to essentially whitelist certain tags. So you might have hundreds of tags in NationBuilder, some of them only relevant to core staff activities, and you can select just the subset that are relevant to your volunteer leaders. And that can be done on a per group basis as well. And then there's another feature called engagement levels that we use that are based around NationBuilder tags as well, in terms of the sync process to keep the information in both places, but a supporter is only ever on a single engagement level. And so you might have an engagement level that sort of shows, new supporters, and then kind of they progress through different stages of volunteer, one-off donor, regular donor, and that information could be reflected in SupporterBase using that engagement level feature. And so that would be another way to show donors. And yeah, you could have a group directly for donors, or you could have kind of the tags and filters and engagement levels to display which people are and aren't donors. And you can target communications within a group by those features as well. Sorry, Reese.
Yeah, and I was just going to say the tag systems in NationBuilder, because they're so flexible, you can get quite creative as well. Like there might be some people that want to there's an exclusion tag feature as well, so you could set it so that people with certain tags are excluded from groups. If you had, say, high value donors, you don't want getting blasted with everything, they go to their own particular group, or configure it however you want so that just the right information is kind of being displayed, and that the right people are in the right groups.
Yeah, and I think our experience in the campaign was, the frenetic nature of it meant that there was a lot of cursing going on about computer systems. And now that, unfortunately, Nicolette didn't get elected, but we've got this breathing space to establish her in what she's describing as the shadow representative for the people of Bradfield. I'm discovering that NationBuilder itself is much more powerful than we gave it credit for. So there's more functionality that we're already able to use. So I am excited about SupporterBase, but I'm nervous about money because we're not a very rich campaign. So I'm sure the team will contact me later to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely get in touch with in a previous life work with Nicolette as well in some of our other roles. So definitely happy to get in touch and chat about how we could help.
All right, well, I've given Corey my contact so I'll leave that to him.
Excellent.
Appreciate it, Kerry. And yeah, I'd love to talk through some of the use case around that donation question as well. Is there sort of a plan that would be useful for the others on the call to share, like, how you're hoping to use or like incorporate donor management in your volunteer leadership groups?
I know that we hear a lot that you just a certain level of engaged volunteers, you don't want them to see all certain amounts of whether someone is donating or how much they're donating, and so I could see that being really, really handy, since NationBuilder can do that in a certain way, but again, kind of avoiding the control panel of NationBuilder for volunteer organizers is more ideal.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't it? Because you might want people to know that somebody's a donor and perhaps a significant donor, but you absolutely don't want your volunteer leaders to know how much they've donated.
Yeah, and that's where those tags can come in, just to that base level.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. You can go and get a demo via the website, and you've got their contact information there on the screen. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy your evening, morning, afternoon. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Erica.